Welcome to Make Pods Great Again. I'm your host, John, back with my girl, Nikki. Nikki, how are you?
I am good. The better question is, how are you? How are you feeling
Well,
post-infection?
I'm fine. I'm excited for us to be doing a podcast that doesn't have another old bald white guy. So that's
I know this
exciting.
is so nice. I'm
I
like,
know.
I was looking back at the episode that we did with Eric Rosa, new guy Eric, and I was like, I should have come on with a bald cap. Like, you guys would have laughed so
I know.
hard if we popped up in the Zoom, and I was like, hey guys, how's it going?
I know. And then we followed it up with O'Keefe.
No,
So it's like, man, we got a real theme going for 2021.
we're breaking the stride today.
Yes, but today we are breaking it with some nutrition talk with a old pal of the show, E.C. Synkowski. How are you?
Good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Welcome back. It's your third time, right?
I think so.
Yes.
I mean, it's like I'm a pro now.
That's rarefied air. I think we only have, who else has been on 3 times? We've had
I actually don't know if we've had anyone on.
yeah, we have.
times.
Danny Spiegel has been on
Oh,
3 times.
Steph, I guess, technically.
Steph has been on 3 times, and has Haley's been twice or 3?
I guess I'm horrible podcast host because I don't know what we've done.
I don't know. We're glad to have you back, ECU. Nikki and
Was
I
it
were
just to break the old white man streak?
no.
It's the only reason.
Yes, that's the only
Who
reason.
can we get on here? Quick, call EC. No.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, first of all, the world is full of old white men, for whatever that's worth. So
Mhm.
it'd be really easy to fill this show with nothing but that if we wanted to. But
I resign.
yes, there you go. No, we thought it'd be fun. Like, it's January, and I think we've had you on to talk nutrition a couple of times, so we thought it'd be fun to, we've got a lot of people doing, whatever, resolutions and trying to get their life in order, and I'm trying to get my life in order, and Nikki's trying to get her life in order. So that'd be fun to talk about.
Totally. It is that time of year. So what's your resolution, right?
I don't really have any this year, if I'm being honest. I don't really do the resolution thing. Like, I live a pretty steady life for the most part, if that makes sense. Like, not a lot of highs, not a lot of lows. I don't feel like I gotta like do super improvement to myself. Like, I'm already like doing the gym thing 6 days a week usually, outside of the illness. And so there's not a lot I can add there other than, maybe commit to doing a warm up occasionally. I'd like to play guitar more. That's probably my biggest resolution for the year, is like actually get a little more serious about, learning and not just sitting in there and just playing rock songs. So
Yeah. Okay.
I know it's not CrossFit related, but
or nutrition related, but that's okay.
Yeah, not at all. It's nothing related.
yes. What
Any
about you,
nutrition-
Nikki?
Yeah, nutrition goals for you, Nikki?
So we're in a quote unquote shred, right? Like a shred challenge at the
Cool.
gym
Wow,
that
okay.
my husband is much more committed to than I am right now. So my main, I don't really set, like, I don't know if you'd call it a resolution, but I do set goals for the
Sure.
year. And most of my goals, CrossFit related, are gymnasty or in that realm, which nutrition would certainly help accomplish, right? Because all those movements are and skills are a little bit easier when you're a little bit leaner, a little bit lighter. But I'd love to get good at walking on my hands this year. It's just,
Yeah.
I'm so terrible at it. I'm never having good. I'm terrified of being upside down. That's a tough one. But
Yeah.
it all goes hand in hand. You get better at that. You get better at muscle ups. You get lighter. You get leaner. So I'm very interested in this conversation.
As a quick tangent, but I know you all like tangents, so
Yeah,
we'll go
please
down
bring it
one.
on.
It was like 5 years ago, right? So I'm terrible at gymnastics, walking my hands, terrible, whatever. So I was like, this is it. I'm becoming a gymnast. I'm doing this. So I
right.
signed up for one-on-one gymnastics lessons. Like, I was going to a gymnastic studio and all this stuff. And it's like, literally, I would spend an hour with a coach just like kicking up onto my hands, in free space and stuff like that. And it's just, I'm surrounded by like 6-year-olds coming up to my knee, and it's like, they're like looking at this huge woman, just like practicing gymnastics. And they're like, is she really just spending the entire hour doing this? I'm like, yes.
Meanwhile, they're flying from like
Right.
bar to bar. They're like running on their hands. The kids are insane.
That's great. Anyway. Yeah. So no, those are good goals. The shred challenge, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, it's a time of challenges. To be honest, I probably have a slightly different take on all the nutrition challenges, in the sense of, I don't mind them. I really view nutrition as an iterative process, and even if you go on a shred challenge that you're not going to continue forever, there might be some lessons learned, or even if it just gets you back in the game a little bit, right? Like, I think sometimes we can be so, if this is not the perfect thing, then why bother doing it? And it's like, well, maybe we just need a little nudge right now, and if it's get off the chocolate and vodka habit.
Yup.
John.
No.
Yup.
No, we're not going that far. Come on. We're not going that far. Come on.
No. She's totally right. And this is why I was very excited to have you on specifically, EC, because I do think that, we're intense, right? CrossFitters are intense people. And we all get stuck intensely in that phase between Thanksgiving and the holidays where we kind of just like say fuck it and do whatever. And that's great. We deserve that. We work really hard. It's wonderful, to forget what day of the week it is and just be filled with vodka and cheese and chocolate constantly.
To be fair, Nikki, my mom makes a great cheese ball. So it's not my fault. It's not my fault.
And if she sent me one, I wouldn't be mad about it.
It's got pineapple in it too. So technically I'm adding toward the grams.
Wow.
Okay, technically. It's a stretch. I'm just going to let that go.
Right. But then, January hits and it is a great time for a reset because we all have been kind of flying off the wagon. But the new year, new me, or like, okay, I'm Whole30 starting January 1st and that is it. Like, I do think that as a populace, CrossFitters are so ingrained in that kind of mentality that those kind of challenges, whatever, can be great for some people, can be very detrimental for others. And that's why I really like your take on how to handle, especially this time of year, this kind of nutrition thing.
Yeah. I mean, I did a post, I think it was, the 31st or something right before the new year. And it's like, if you're binging in preparation for January 1, you're doing it wrong. Right. Like, and I do have that opinion. It's just sort of like, guys, like, what are we doing, man? Like, but I don't mind the motivation at the new year. And if people want to jump on a challenge and all that stuff, it's like, great, ride the motivation. I mean, motivation comes and goes. It's definitely not something to rely on, but if it gets you going, hey, more power to you. I think we have to be less dogmatic about always being right and more about like, are we making progress? Right.
Yeah. It's a nice way to not be so hard on yourself too. Because mentally, it can be so defeating being like, oh, I was doing so good. And then I had a drink, or I was doing so good. And then I had dessert. Like, no, you're still doing good.
Totally.
Like, you're all right.
Totally.
I don't ever have that problem. Ever.
No, me either.
I don't.
I'm like talking like I'm on the shred and I'm not. I'm still in cheese and chocolate land.
No, well, what I mean is like, I don't ever feel guilty about, whatever, people call it cheat meals or whatever. Like, I don't ever feel guilty about that. Like,
when did you start CrossFit, John? I mean, it's been a while.
God, it's been 10 years
at
this point.
Did you go through your Paleo perfect phase?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course I did Paleo.
Yes. Did you guys go through the Paleo baking phase?
Yes.
That's the important one. Don't forget.
I'm not leaning out. I can't figure out why I'm not leaning out. I just made these Paleo brownies.
Oh my God.
I've had almond flour chocolate chip cookies every fucking night this week.
Can't figure it out. I have no clue. Why am I not leaning out?
I'm going to
37,000 almonds in this one cookie alone.
Because, cavemen made almond chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, yeah. Every night.
Yeah.
Baked over the
But I think
fire.
that's part of it. Like, John, you already kind of been through that cycle. And same with me too. I mean, the only reason why I'm now not dogmatic is only because I've been dogmatic for many years, right? So it is sort of that perspective of like, well, I've done those things, and it also turns out that I can be successful not being so extreme, right? So yeah, you've reached there and you've reached a more steady state, which is where I hope people get. And maybe if they get it there through multiple shred challenges, and then we'll see them when they're a little bit more, continuous or whatever, stable.
Well, I was hoping for the uninitiated, we could talk a little bit about kind of the 800 gram challenge and like kind of your philosophy, because I personally find it very freeing.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like like in paleo world, it can be very, even though it's all natural, quote unquote, it can be restrictive. There's things you can't have, they frown on fruit, like there's just a lot of stuff that I got to think too much about it. And what I liked about yours is like, I don't have to worry about like, if I'm going to have pineapple or watermelon or oranges or pears or what, like, I don't have to put too much thought into it. It's just like, get in your grams.
Totally.
All right. So can you explain like maybe the basic tenets for the uninitiated?
Yeah. It's the 800-gram challenge. It's to eat 800 grams by weight of fruits and vegetables each day. And it doesn't matter which fruits and veggies you pick. So like you're saying, it doesn't have to be all veggies. It doesn't have to be any veggies. It can be fruit. It can be potato. And it also can be cooked, canned, frozen, or fresh. So we're not going to worry about, if you're having frozen mango or steamed spinach, you're just going to add it up towards your grams. And that's about it. And you eat that, you put a priority on that, and then you continue to eat whatever else you want. So you're not restricting or eliminating. And, that was definitely part of the idea when I came up with it, was like the no restrictions approach, just sort of like an additive approach. But I don't think I was expecting quite the response from as many people about how freeing that was, which is, I guess, kind of dumb in hindsight, right? Like, duh. But that like that's one of the top comments. I mean, it's I feel better, have better performance is one of them, weight loss 2, and then 3, it's like just so mentally freeing. And it's like, yeah, it's flip the script on dieting psychology, right? I mean, all the times when you think about diets, you think about what you can't have, and so I just took that off the table. Which I'm glad I did. But again, I didn't really think I thought it through, all of the ramifications of that with the idea.
Well, I think for me though, it's like, I'll be eating this way and people are like, oh, you can't eat pineapple. It's got so much sugar in it. I'm like, all right, tell me another one. Like I love pineapple. It's so good, And
there's no fun. You're not allowed to have any fun when you're eating healthy, John. Come on.
For me, like the most freeing part of it was like not having to think about it. But then I never feel bloated's not the right word. Like I always feel good, like physically good afterwards. Like I always find like when I eat processed food or something with too many additives or whatever, like I just feel like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's, for me, it's like a real, as I'm getting older, I can feel it more. I don't know if that's just, because I'm getting older or whatever, but I certainly feel it more now. And so now when I have a meal that's like, one of my favorite meals is to make sweet potato hash. I love sweet potatoes, and I'll add apple to it. And it's so good, and
can you share this recipe with us, please? Like, will you post it on your page or on the Make Pods Great Again page or something? Because I would love to know. Apples with sweet potato hash? Hell yeah.
It's super easy. So, and if you're a meat eater, you're not going to like it. But I basically just take one sweet potato and I dice it, right? And I take a strip of bacon and I drop the bacon in and I put the potato on top of it all at the same time and let it cook together, right? I add fresh rosemary. I take an apple and I dice that and I toss that in with it. And I cook the whole thing for, God, I don't know, like probably 12 to 14 minutes that way. So I'm not doing added oils. It's just like the bacon grease.
Bacon fats in there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of taking care of it. But, the bulk of it is the potato because the potato is a lot,
Yeah, I was gonna say, you get 200-300 grams in that, right?
Yeah, and then you can, you toss in basically a whole apple with it, and I put in some cinnamon and some salt and pepper, and that's basically it. Occasionally, I'll put in like sweet apple chicken sausage if I want to do some added protein. But I've actually found that when I'm doing this, like I feel like I need less protein for performance. I know there's a lot of people that are going to kick me in the teeth for that.
They're going to kick you out of CrossFit for that.
Yeah, you got to have all the protein, and I'm getting plenty of protein, but like I kind of cut back on the protein as I'm doing this because I'm still very full and I feel good, and I don't feel stuffed all the time. I mean, that's my favorite.
That's great to hear. I mean, that was actually when have been part of the CrossFit community for some time, and so it was more...
it's an understatement of the year, EC. Come on.
But when I launched it, a lot of people that were trying it were CrossFitters, and it was actually performance and recovery that I heard the most instead of weight loss. And now I've heard more weight loss, and that's great as it continues to spread. That's a big goal too. But yeah, I mean, fruits and vegetables, they have antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, polyphenols that have the same properties as well, in addition to the vitamins and minerals. And so you get some of that nice additional recovery benefit from having more of that in your diet than less. And so it's not totally surprising that people, quote, feel better, have better energy, all of that stuff with it. So that's great.
That's awesome.
I only tend to struggle with green foods, like, because I can't cook.
Really?
Well, I can't cook spinach because you buy a huge bag of spinach and it comes out to be like, the size of a walnut by the time you're done. So that's a big pain. And I don't just love salads, but I eat them because it's an easy way to get in, a lot of grams. And I the smart part of me knows that, green vegetables are good for you. So
yeah,
I still do it.
Yeah, that is the weakness of, there's a couple weaknesses of the 800-gram challenge, right? Like all diets are trying to simplify physiology, but because of that, they can never be comprehensive enough to address all angles and all considerations. And so one of the things that people find with the 800-gram challenge is they're like, well, these greens don't weigh much. I'm not going to eat them anymore. And you're like, well, we can't just follow rules blindly. I mean, like, this is a nice, simple way to approach nutrition, but like, you have to apply the knowledge that like leafy greens are good for you, right? And so you still want to get them in, and however you want to do that, that's fine. But it's going to be most optimal when you include the breadth and depth across all the fruits and veggies. Yeah.
My favorite part of this concept is that I like feel like the worst. Like I feel like shit when I overeat, and I overeat constantly. Like I have been trained. I trained myself real well to like go in hard with every single meal. And it's because I literally love like the act of eating, like taking fork to face.
Okay.
And so I'm like sad when my meal ends. But the nice part about this concept is that I'm already too full from the things that are good for me to then overindulge in other things that will make me feel sick. Like if I'm already halfway to full or more than halfway to full by the time I get to my dessert or my peanut butter or my trail mix or like insert thing that I could really overindulge in that kind of makes me feel gross in the end.
Totally.
If I'm already halfway to full by the time I get there, I'm way less likely to like sit and stuff my face and make myself feel sick.
Yeah. And that's where the weight loss for a lot of people comes from, right? Because then they're not overeating all this stuff that tastes delicious because they are full. So yeah. And it's funny, like, so when I came up with the idea, I was actually playing with somebody else. Gosh, I'm going to get his name wrong. I think it's Dr. Greger. Of his book. It has a very cheery title, How Not to Die.
Tell me.
Yes, please.
And he has a concept and he lists, I'm going to get it wrong, 10, 12 different foods. And he says, you should eat these every day. And so I was playing with it and I liked the concept. I was like, hey, let me just try to eat these and not worry about anything else and see what happens. And the problem was the volume for me was way too much. And then it was a little too specific. It was like every day have a half cup of like fresh herbs. And I was like, I just don't have cilantro today. I just don't.
Right. That's an aggressive ask.
And then it was like, and also have like beans every day. It's like, I like beans, but just like not every day. So it was just a little too micromanaging. And then that's when I came across this study that was looking at fruit and vegetable consumption relative to health outcomes and had this 800-gram number. And that's when I was like, okay, cool, let's make this an idea. But yeah, I mean, it's the filling nature that is really helpful for people. And I think then combined with the lack of restriction as well, it's the combination of like, I still can have the peanut butter cup, let me fill up first, and then just have one instead of 16, right?
Yep. So what is your advice when it comes to what I think is the hardest part, which is gaining some momentum? Because once you get 2 weeks under your belt, once you get whatever that momentum is for you under your belt, it is so much easier to stick with it. But those first few days, it's like on the bus, off the bus, on the bus, off the bus. What is your advice for kind of battling that mentality, especially at the start of the year?
I don't know. Send me your answer.
Okay, forget it.
No. Yeah, that's it. It's hard. I think that is where motivation actually helps. And that's why I like people riding the motivation wave or the group challenge wave, or that's why I help gyms run challenges. I do think there's something about group accountability and motivation, and everyone's in it together. And for sure, like, and I say capitalize on that when you can, and hopefully it carries you to when it becomes more of a habit, right? But sure, that's hard. That's also when though, like, thinking about your why or having an external motivation is really helpful. I think maybe that's the health marker that might be out of line a little bit. And you're like, shoot, I don't want to be sick. I want to be around for my kids and grandkids. That can be helpful. Having like, I want to achieve a marathon or do more pull-ups, all of that helps. At some point though, when we really are looking at long-term success, it can't be these external motivators, right? Like they aren't gonna do it. Like you have to want to do it. But I think in the beginning, those are actually what get people going more. So for sure.
The desire to have abs has never been my external motivation, unfortunately. Just doesn't get me there. I don't know. I'm like, what's better than abs? Literally everything I put in my mouth.
Totally. And that's one of the things that I do with my clients in my master class is it's like, I actually don't really want to tell people what to eat. I have very little desire to tell people what to eat. I want them to understand what they're eating and then what they have to do to get the goals they want. And I brought that up when you said the abs thing, because I often find that with CrossFitters, you know, they're seeking this state of leanness. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I'm not telling you to be that lean, but if you want to be that lean, this is what you have to do. And then they're like, not so interested. Done. And I'm like, okay, good. Well, now we know, right? Now we know what the trade-off is. Instead of sort of just having this goal of like, I want to be like X, it's like, well, do you want to do that to get X, right? And then they can be the one in the driver's seat to decide, like, is that for me, right?
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it puts some more accountability into their own hands so that they have a better understanding of the kind of drive and the sustainability of said drive. Like, you want abs for your vacation? Cool. You want abs for life? Understand how much you love chicken and broccoli. Understand it for real.
Totally.
Yeah.
I don't know, Nikki, for me to answer your question, it was always about finding things I liked. Like, there's so much variety in fruit, as an example, and so many fruits that I don't like, but so many that I do. I literally just stick to the ones I do. I don't feel like I got to add in things that I don't enjoy. You know, like,
Yeah.
I don't love blueberries, as an example. They're okay, but I don't love them. I just
What?
don't love them. They're okay. I don't love them.
Who are you? Who doesn't love blueberries?
I don't love them, but I don't love raw blueberries. I love, blueberry muffins are great, but
I don't love raw blueberries. I love pastries.
Okay,
yes.
So those don't count for the.
Those don't count. I know they don't count, and I don't put them in, but I love pineapple. I love apples. Sure. I love watermelon, grapes. And so for me, it's just like keeping those things, in the fridge or on the counter. So when I need a snack, I've got something I really, really like, readily handable. I can just jump in and grab it, and I'm good to go. And that always seems to keep me on track. And then I shifted my mindset away, and I kind of want to get into this, like, away from this kind of mindset of, all right, you got to get in all the protein. Like, I've been fed that line for years that, you have to have, 0.7 to 1.2 grams of protein per body weight, or whatever, whatever the number is. And so for me, that would be, 150 to 180 grams of protein. That's a lot of damn protein. Like, that's a ton of protein. And I don't eat that much. It varies. Right now, I'm probably like 175, 180, maybe.
Okay. 0.7 would have you closer to 120. Not to correct your math, but I'm just
still so much.
The 0.7.
Yeah, well, but CrossFitters do everything to the extreme, so you're going to do the one. So
of course, no,
you're going to do the one.
yeah. We're not doing 0.7. That's scaling. We're not scaling protein, EC.
Well, that's my number that I'm about to talk to you about. So
yeah. Well, so for me though, so I did cut it back, and I cut it back great, and so I'm probably closer to that 120, maybe even less, as I'm trying to dial in more to that. So like. What do you say to the naysayers? They're going, nope, got to have 180, got to have 200 grams. Like, what do you say to them?
Well, I also, like you, was trying the 1 gram of pound of body weight for a while, and it's just a lot of protein. It's a lot of protein. And you get to this point of like, I'm just sort of done with protein. And so then you got to kind of see what works for you in terms of sustainability, and then what the research says as well. And where I think there is a collection of research is that range, and I'm going to give it in the grams per pound of body weight, not kilograms. It's the 0.55 to 0.7 is sort of the range. So that's less than a lot of kind of what the bodybuilder people are recommending to really max out muscle mass. And I end up at 0.7 as my general starting point, because I typically am dealing with CrossFitters who want to lean out, get stronger, improve performance, and add muscle mass. And so that's where it is. It also helps to have a little bit higher protein if you're in a caloric deficit for weight loss. So that's why I end at 0.7, but I do think the numbers have gotten a little high. But where I go with people when they're like, no, you need 1, I'm like, okay, we'll do 1. Report back to me in a year and let me know how it goes. Because I work with a good amount of people, and like 0.7 is hard to sustain. So you can have this dream that 1 is going to get you all these results. And it's like, well, let me see that you actually do that for a while, and then we'll talk about like if that's really the most optimal, right?
Yeah, for me, it's always like, I try to do things by feel. Like, how does my body feel afterwards? And I always feel like when I'm closer to that 1 number, I feel really bloated, really, I just feel heavy, even though I'm not, necessarily gaining weight. I just feel heavier than I want to. You get the protein farts. It's terrible. Although I can't smell right now, so I guess it'd be fine. Maybe I should just
maybe give it a try.
Maybe. maybe.
Yeah, I mean, one of the studies that I use for that 0.7 number, it's like kind of where did they max out muscle mass gains with resistance training? And they weren't looking at professional bodybuilders. They were just looking at what I would call kind of like the typical CrossFitter, like a regular trainee, but not necessarily like this professional. And that's where the 0.7 number comes into play. So I'm like, great, let's start there and see what happens. And if you really are gung ho and you're going great and you think 0.7 is not enough, then you get to move up to 0.8, but you don't get to do that until you're consistent.
Right.
Such a pragmatic approach, Easy. That's like what I love about the way that you work with, people and clients and groups. And I know that you host a lot of different courses and things for gyms, but like, you're so normal and down to earth about it. And I feel like a lot of times nutrition programs are up on a pedestal is the wrong way to say it, but they definitely are like doling out like, this is how we do it. This is the right way to do it. And you're like, okay, well, let's try. Like, let's see how your body feels. Like there's no harm in trying something for a couple of weeks and seeing if it works for you or it doesn't. And I like that flexibility.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, the 800-gram challenge is kind of, I guess, my lead in and how people, might find me and stuff, and that's great. And lazy macros is then the next step by adding the protein. But to be honest, that's not really the core of what I want my message to be. I wrote these, what I call 10 principles of nutrition that are kind of like what I consider the underpinnings of all the different diets out there. And the thing about them is none of them list a single food. None of them actually say like eat apples or have spinach or have fruits and veggies or do the 800-gram challenge. They kind of talk about, quantity, calories, macros, all that stuff. But that's what I want my core message to be. It's like, I want to teach nutrition without telling you how and what to eat. So, and that's where it's like, okay, I mean, I can tell you why carnivore is successful, right? I'm not going to recommend it because I don't really think it's going to be successful for a lot of people. But I mean, there's reasons why it can work, right? And so that's what I want to help people understand and get away from, like, as much as I love the 800-gram challenge and it's helped people, like, I don't need you to do the 800-gram challenge,
Right. I need you to understand the principles of what is working. But
Totally.
people are lazy. They want you to tell them what to eat and then make their shopping list and then cook my meal for me. And like, I'm one of those people too. So I'm totally on board. It's hard to, I might actually already know the fundamental principles.
Yeah.
And I still want a coach to tell me that I need this, that, and the other thing in every single meal.
Totally. And that's why I have, 800-gram challenge and lazy macros. I get it. Like, I'm not putting that down, but it's like, I think nutrition can be very confusing if you look at these diets and you think, wow, they're very different. And what I'm trying to say is like, there's a lot of similarities, right? Like Mediterranean diet is like very much the paleo diet. We can argue about beans till the cows come home, but like, we got a lot of similarities, guys.
Yeah, totally.
And so that's what I'm trying to help people with, because I do, and I was in it. And this is why I'm so passionate about it. It's like, I feel like we're in this kind of washing machine of like, what's the new diet? I got to find the next new diet. Like, oh my gosh, I have to do this new cycle over and over again. And instead it's like, hold on. Let's understand what's going on. And then we can worry about whether or not you eat beans,
It seems like so minor now that we're thinking about it on the greater scheme of things. Like, do you like them? All right, eat them.
Beans are great, but like, let's not start with like never eat beans. Like, that's just such a detail. It's so in the weeds, right?
Good for your LDL.
I'd be interested in your insight into this whole keto fad that's going on right now. Like, what I find interesting personally about keto is how many people do it wrong.
It's the new paleo for that reason.
Well, I mean, like I keep, like I follow a lot of people and I see a lot of posts because I look at a lot of social media. I know that's shocking. And I always feel like I see people doing keto and they're like, making a cup of coffee and dropping a whole stick of butter in it and going keto. And I'm like, that's not keto. Like, keto is a lot of vegetables and some fatty meats, but it's a lot of vegetables, and they always tend to skip that and go straight to making the peanut butter bombs, like, what are your thoughts on this whole fad I hate to call it a fad, but it's kind of a craze right now. Like,
do you feel the keto is still going strong?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still going strong. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have people talk to me about it all the time. Like,
I actually just saw something that was, so there was this article, I'm going to do a podcast on it tomorrow, but it was like the best diet for 2021 by CNN. And they were rating all these different diets, but they listed that like there's keto 2.0. And I'm like, oh my God, what is this? What I mean?
Is it?
And it's like they shift the fat from like 90% fat to 85% fat. And I'm like, oh my God, now we're in the weeds, beyond the weeds, right? Keto. What do I think about keto? One of my principles is sustainability is the most important factor for diet selection. If keto is how people eat more whole foods than not, I like it. if keto is how they control their quantity, I like it. If that is even their gateway drug, if you will, to the whole food world, I like it. And I do think it is for a lot of people. And that's why I'm not against keto. Now, what I think happens though is what's been oversimplified a lot in the greater media is this idea that carbs are bad and they will cause diabetes and all these other chronic diseases. And it's like, that's just gotten a little oversimplified, that you're going to have, hyperinsulinemia when you eat an apple. That's not true. That's not true. And so we've gotten to this like extreme state of like, the lower the carb, the better, and fat doesn't make you fat. And it's like, no, that's incorrect as well. And so sometimes I think these ideas get too simplified and we get a little bit to the extreme. And I think that's what's playing out a lot in the keto space. The other thing which makes me really confused about the keto thing is it's like CrossFit is all about intensity, and intensity is fueled in part by the glycolytic pathway, which requires carbohydrates. Like there's no getting around that. Like if you want to have a very high power output, it is going to be maximized by having carbohydrates. And so people are like doing CrossFit. I just feel like they're shooting themselves in the foot. It's like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you trying to do Fran on broccoli? Like just why? Like what's the thing? And sometimes I think people see results. I know I'm on a tangent here. I think people see results because they've lost weight and therefore their performance is improving because they've lost 10 pounds, and pull-ups are easier when you've lost 10 pounds. But it's like, that doesn't mean we're at optimal yet, guys. Like maybe we could still improve even further if we had the apple or potato. You're not going to find a high level, like 400-meter sprinter doing like keto. You're just not.
Right. No, I think that so much of the driving force behind a lot of sticking to these diets or going with what has been sort of like socially drilled into our brains, like carbs are bad for women specifically, is that goal of leaning out regardless of performance. And it's totally, and I, myself included, totally like, they go against each other, but it doesn't matter because in the moment you're like, cool, I haven't had any simple carbs. And so I'm totally leaning out and I'm getting the most intense workout possible, which is also going to help me in my goal of leaning out without considering the performance element in there or the like feel like shit element when your body has nothing to run on and you're pushing it to the point that it needs, some sort of fuel in that system, like you were talking about, and you're not giving it any. So I think that we are, and this is a huge can of worms that we probably shouldn't open right now because I could talk for hours and hours on this, but, societally, especially a lot of women in fitness and in CrossFit specifically are still driven by that goal to lean out no matter what the performance aspect of it is. And my husband, I've been doing this for also 10, now 11 years. My husband still has to be like, remember, you don't want to be skinny. You want to be strong. And it's still to this day, something I have to be like, yeah, you're right. How fucked up is that?
Yeah.
And I love this world. I live in this world. It is so important to me. And I'm stoked on how I look, but there's something in the back of your mind. It's been drilled there for so long.
Right.
It's hard to ignore.
Guys have that problem too, Nikki.
I was going to say.
Don't let dudes say they don't. Like I got moments where I want to be a skinny bitch. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Like I'll look in the mirror. I'm like, oh, I'm heavier than I want to be. And then I'll be walking away, looking in the mirror. I'm like, yeah, but I'm getting thick. So that's good too.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. It's tough. It's tough to still have that to battle.
I will say, just so we don't get a lot of hate mail, we're not hating on keto. My parents are on keto for the record. But they do it right. Like my mom is a meticulous reader, meticulous. Like, and you give her a book and say, do this, and she'll read every detail.
That's awesome.
So when they do keto, it's avocados and salads and broccoli and but they're using real butter and they're ordering in grass-fed meat, instead of buying meat from Walmart or wherever, and doing it the right way. And they've lost a lot of weight and they're healthier and they feel better. And it's kind of like paleo. It's like the low-hanging fruit of nutrition.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's all natural. You're not eating a lot of processed food, and so it's okay. So I'm not hating on keto. I'm hating on, like, I just keep seeing posts from people going, oh, I made this keto salad and it's literally just like a mound of cheese and mayonnaise and I don't know, like, and
sounds awesome
and a steak, which I'm sure it's delicious, but
it is interesting with and I kind of, not to be like it's amazing, but that's a kind of like about the 800-gram challenge is a lot of these diets, they end up basically being Like you can come up with the processed food variation to meet it. We talked about paleo brownies before we kicked off, right? Or when we kicked off, and then it's like the keto salad of cheese and like pepperoni or something like that.
Right.
Like
Yep.
there's just these ways to continue to be like, I'm eating too much processed stuff or like overly calorically dense foods, right? You can do the same thing with vegan, like get some vegan organic candy. And it's like, okay, well, that's not really vegan, but sure.
Right.
So it sort of ends up that it becomes like we're all going back to just the same problem, which is processed foods in some way, calorically dense, overeating, those types of things. So it's just funny that way. Yeah, I'm not against keto either. It's just for CrossFitters. It's just like maybe if you guys were doing like, you know, super long endurance where like 60% VO2 max is what we're talking about, then we can maybe start to have some conversations about fat fueling. But like Fran, 10-minute AMRAPs? No, no, not for maximal power output. No.
Are you saying my Fran time is 10 minutes, EC? So
no, that was Fran, comma.
Let's not out my Fran time to all the listeners, for God's sakes.
That's a great Fran time.
That was Fran, comma, 10-minute AMRAP.
It probably is 10 minutes right now after dealing with this illness because my lungs suck.
But those short power outputs, you need more, and you need to be gentler to yourself and your body to give yourself more to be able to do that kind of stuff. Like,
where are you on your post-corona? Where are we on the timeline again?
Well, I'm only let's see. I came out of quarantine on Monday. So I've done two workouts since then. And because I'm a CrossFitter, I'm very impatient. I should be back to full fitness at this point.
Yeah, seriously. What's wrong with you?
It's so exhausting. It is so exhausting. Like it was 2 weeks. I was talking to this buddy of mine, this guy that works for me, but he's a buddy, and his mom has cancer and she's been going through chemo. And so I was asking him, I'm kind of always asking him about her, how she's doing, how she's feeling. And so I'm really like kind of aware of kind of where she is and her journey through this and how she feels, and from talking to him. And Corona to me has a lot of the same symptoms as someone who's going through chemo. It just exhausts you.
Okay.
Like you just feel like you don't want to move. You just want to sit on the couch all day. But if you sit and you don't move, you just get all achy and gross, you know, and so you have to move. And then when you move, now you're exhausted again. It's just, it's mentally really depressing. So, and then when you come out of it, like yesterday and today were my first days where I'm like kind of full energy again, where I feel really good. And I woke up feeling good and I felt good all day long. But then you go to work out and, you know, it's a respiratory disease. You don't have your lungs back. So I programmed these two 5-round workouts because I'm a genius, back to back. And I'm about 3 rounds in going, oh, bad idea. Really bad idea.
Yikes.
It's a 3-round workout today.
Yeah. Still great. You still worked out. That counts.
Well, here's what I did that was smart, though. I will give myself a little credit. So what I did was a strength and these 2 5-round workouts that were mostly body weight. There wasn't a lot of weight to them. And I did it on a rolling 60-minute clock. So it was not for time. It was just like, look, get all this work in 60 minutes. Yeah. And so I was but the problem was I was taking long breaks. Like I was doing 15 cows on the assault bike and I'd get off. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Like, I just got to sit here for a minute. And I'd take a break, sitting there getting depressed going, a month ago, I'd be back on the bike killing that thing. And right now I'm just sitting on my butt doing nothing. So it's
a process.
All right. You'll get back to it.
It feels like a long process, but I'm hopeful, you know, particularly as I'm, you know, trying to focus more on the 800 grams and getting, you know, kind of more fruits and vegetables back into my life, that'll help me recover a little quicker too. Like,
yeah, we'll see. I'm not making any coronavirus promises from the.
You should make all the promises. You have the cure. Yes.
Yeah.
Cured.
I love fruits and vegetables. I am not making that promise.
Who needs a vaccine? Just an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Everyone said that forever. Come on.
I think it's science at this point. I did not. She's like, look,
I did not say that.
Cut all of this out of the podcast. EC, what are your goals or resolutions for this year?
What are my goals and resolutions for this year? You know, so I have this community tracker, which is called the Consistency Project. That's also the name of my podcast. But this idea is, you know, you basically check off every day, yes or no, to did you do the 800-gram challenge? Did you hit your protein target? Did you exercise? And did you sleep enough? And my cutoff for sleep is 7 hours, but we can have that discussion. And so I committed, I think I started in August, to logging my score for a year, because the idea is like, I think these are the big 4 factors in people's life that needs to kind of be going really well to make a comment then about overall health. And so I was like, okay, well, what's a good score, right? Like, what does that look like? And so I want to make sure that I stay on track and commit to logging every day. I think I'm actually pretty consistent on those factors, some more than others, but still, like, what does that look like in terms of scoring across the year? So that's sort of my resolution.
Cool.
Well, and you just brought it up, but since the last time we spoke, you launched a podcast.
I did.
Oh yeah,
I did. It's called
How's
the
that
Consistency
going?
Project. It's good. It's been fun. I'm working with a longtime friend. He's the co-host for Ben Bergeron's Chasing Excellence podcast. I know him from my early days in CrossFit, so it's good to reunite with him.
Wait, who is it?
Patrick Cummings.
It's Pat. Pat and I
Yeah.
worked together at Again
Yeah,
Faster a million
totally.
years ago. Tell him I
Totally.
say hi.
I will. Yeah.
Oh,
So
he's the best.
it's fun to rework with him, and right now it's just been kind of these 20-minute-ish like deep dives, I guess, on a specific topic. So like inflammation, or something like that, or so it's just been fun. We'll see. It'll probably evolve as all things do, but I'm nowhere near the frequency of you all. I don't know how you guys have so many podcasts.
But you're doing really well, because the first time Nikki and I charted on iTunes, we were really excited, by the way.
Cool.
We were like so excited, and I'm in the weeds, like looking to see where we are. And it's like up at like number 5 or something from Apple. There you were.
Really?
That
How do you figure out where you're charting?
I'm like, that bitch. She's so
You
far ahead
literally
of
just
me
have
already.
to look at the chart. You just have to go there.
Yeah, you just go to the chart.
There's some like systems or like places you can search or whatever, but it's easier if you just look.
On Apple?
Yeah, you just go to Apple and sort by. You're in the health and fitness category. Just sort health and fitness, and they'll be top to bottom. And
Thankfully, I'm in the right category.
Yeah, right. You're
She's in the
humor.
furniture shopping. Right? You're number 1 in furniture shopping.
Yeah.
Yeah, the algorithm is
This
so
is exciting. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, it was very cool. And I'm like, I know her. She's way ahead of me now. I'm depressed. It was great. So you're killing it.
Oh, well, thank you. But yeah, it's been fun, and it's been fun to give it a whirl. So we'll see. Keep going.
Yeah, it'll get not easier. You'll find like your grooves. I feel like that's what happened to us. And truthfully, like we did not have this frequency when we first started. Like we sort of kicked it into high gear when we were all first in a lockdown, because we selfishly took advantage of the fact that like we wanted to talk to athletes. We wanted to get everyone's, take on 2020 and what the weird competition season was looking like. And we were straight up taking advantage of the fact that people were locked in their homes.
Yeah.
So they couldn't get away from us. We were like, hey, you're home. Talk to us. And they couldn't say no.
Are you more than one a week? I mean, like, I think I've seen, right? You guys do sometimes more than one a week?
We would record more than one a week. And in 2020, in the height of lockdown, we were for sure releasing more than one a week because we would record like every other night.
Wow. Yeah, we're probably this year, my hope is we'll release 2 a week. Our plan is to have like 4 episodes a month that will be with a guest. And then we'll do 2 that are just me and Nikki, just
shooting the shit,
just doing what we do, talking about all the fruits and vegetables we're eating.
I know, that's all you guys talk about.
That's it. That's all we talk about.
Why people ever tune in to listen to just the 2 of us talk is still beyond me. I do not understand it.
And then we have a couple of wildcard episodes. I typically do at least one series I call Inclusion RX, and I bring somebody on that just tells their story, something about inclusion. So it could be an adaptive athlete. It could be, someone that, I don't know, pick your poison. Like they could have anxiety, or it could be a race thing, or LGBT, or whatever. Like just something inclusive, just to tell their story. That's it. Like just the kind of their experience. And then, so I may do 1 or 2 of those. So we'll try to do 7 or 8 a month if we can. We're busy.
This is the first time I'm hearing about this plan, by the way.
No. Well, no, that's what we've got booked. That's what we got booked this month.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be, I would love to stay consistent with it, because I just feel like as the world is hopefully coming out of, the craziness of the pandemic and everything that we've learned in the last year, we have definitely shifted our culture in a way that is allowing people to take more advantage of or enjoy like this type of content more. So I would like to stick with it to a point for sure. I just hope that it's for a better reason. It's because we all really like it and not because we're all like locked in our houses with our significant others and families, like so sick of them. I need to listen to someone else for 5 minutes.
Right. Right.
I will say, as you do it more, you see like it's a much different experience connecting with people through a podcast than through Instagram or through other methods.
Yeah.
Like they really feel like they know you. And
Totally.
like I even got messages today from people like, oh, I really love the podcast. And they like just start talking to you like they've known you your whole life.
Yeah.
Which I love. It's actually kind of fun.
It's my favorite part. It's my favorite part of this thing.
Well, until they start yelling at you and then, you know, because they do that too, you know, it's just.
Yep. I was going to say, like, I don't know if you know, but like social media, you don't get to like explain a lot of nuance.
Right.
John doesn't, what are you talking about?
I don't do nuance. Not at all.
So I do appreciate that already, that it's just like, Instagram, I love it and all that stuff, but you have what, 3-5 seconds to catch someone's attention and get them to be interested in what you want to say. At least on a podcast, you can explore that for maybe, 20 seconds or a little bit longer.
Totally.
Well, the problem with the podcast, though, they get to know you and then they hear the topic that you just triggered them for and they don't actually listen to it. So like,
Okay.
I'm gonna get some DMs on the keto thing, which is why I took a moment to say, hey, I'm not hating on keto,
Okay.
but they're not going to get that far.
No, they've already skipped. They've already skipped to the next show.
They already skipped out and started their DM to me, telling me why I'm a jerk, so it's an interesting experience, but it is fun.
Right. Fun. Good. Yeah, it has been.
It's made my boy Bean famous, who's right here with me. You guys can't really see him because of my backdrop, but
no, I do like how he goes in and out of the backdrop, but yeah.
It's made him very famous. He enjoys it. He doesn't even know he's famous. It's very exciting.
Oh, he knows.
Yeah,
he knows. He just doesn't want you to know that he knows. He's sneaky like that.
He is sneaky. He is sneaky like that. All right. Well, EC, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
It's been super fun as always. Hopefully our listeners learned something about eating healthy and not following my lead, which is vodka chocolate.
You're better than that, and we all know it.
Mm-hmm. You heard the glass through most of the episode. No, I'm better than that some days. Depends.
No, but this was really good. And I do hope that people who are, riding the wave of motivation at the beginning of this year take full advantage of it. And if they aren't, or they're sort of plagued by the idea of regaining control of their health and nutrition and wellness, that they know that there are ways out there that it could be really easy entry for them.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess the last thing I would say, just to tail onto that a little bit, is just like, and when you fall off, like, welcome to being a human. Like, we don't just ride off into perfection forever in terms of nutrition. So just like, it's going to be an up and down thing and you just got to stick with it.
Yeah.
Well, before we sign off then, where are they going to find you? Podcast, books, website, all of that.
Yeah, no book yet, but Optimize Me Nutrition for my website and the handle on social media. And then the podcast is The Consistency Project.
All right. Cool. You guys heard it here. So go check it out. It will change your life. So
thanks, guys.
Thanks for being on, Nikki. Great seeing you as always.
Likewise.
For everyone listening, we appreciate you joining us tonight, and we will chat with you guys soon.